The scream cut through the elegant ballroom, a heartbeat after the first bite. Crystal glasses shattered against polished marble as one of the city's most powerful politicians collapsed beside a towering wedding cake, his face turning ghostly pale. Armed security surged toward the stage, guests scattered in panic, and within seconds black-suited men with concealed weapons sealed every exit. At the center of the chaos stood Eliana Brooks. Flowers still dusted the sleeve of her cream-colored bakery coat. Her trembling fingers clutched an empty cake box. She had delivered the wrong wedding cake. The realization hit her like ice water. The gold ribbon around the box wasn't hers. Neither was the tiny black crest pressed into the fondant, a raven gripping a silver dagger. Someone had switched the cakes. A dozen rifles snapped toward her. "Don't move." Every terrified face in the ballroom turned to the curvy young baker whose only dream had been keeping her late mother's neighborhood bakery alive. Eliana wasn't glamorous. She never tried to be. She had soft curves, warm brown eyes, and a quiet confidence earned through years of waking before dawn to knead dough, decorate cakes, and smile through customers who judged her appearance before tasting her work. She knew cakes. She knew ingredients. She knew this masterpiece wasn't hers. And somehow, someone had died because of it. A cold silence settled over the room. Then everyone stepped aside. He entered without raising his voice. Matteo De Luca. The billionaire everyone admired. The Mafia king everyone feared. His charcoal suit looked impossibly precise, his silver watch caught the chandelier's light, and every guard instinctively lowered their heads as he walked past. His expression remained unreadable while the dying politician gasped for air. Matteo looked only once at the poisoned cake. Then at Eliana. "You baked it?" His voice was calm. That frightened her more than shouting ever could. "No." The answer escaped before fear could silence it. "I delivered it, but I didn't make this cake." Several guards laughed. One stepped closer. "Convenient story." Another reached for her arm. Eliana instinctively pulled away. "If I'd poisoned him, I wouldn't still be standing here holding the delivery receipt." The ballroom fell quiet again. Matteo's sharp gray eyes lingered on the paper in her hand. Interesting. She wasn't begging. She wasn't crying. She was thinking. Most innocent people panicked. Most guilty people lied. She was examining evidence. He nodded once. "Bring her." 2 guards escorted Eliana into a fleet of armored vehicles instead of handcuffing her. Outside, flashing police lights illuminated the rain-soaked streets, but none dared interfere as the convoy disappeared into the night. An hour later she found herself standing inside a mansion that resembled a royal palace more than a private home. Marble staircases curved beneath glittering chandeliers. Original paintings lined the walls. Security cameras watched every corridor while silent guards stood at attention. Luxury wrapped itself around danger. Matteo waited inside a vast office overlooking the city skyline. On the polished desk rested the poisoned cake. Untouched. "You have one opportunity," he said. "Convince me you're telling the truth." Eliana slowly approached. Instead of looking at the victim's slice, she examined the untouched decorations. Her fingertips hovered just above a handcrafted sugar rose before stopping. She frowned. "Whoever made this has exceptional skills." One guard smirked. "That helps your defense?" She ignored him. "The frosting contains almond extract." "So?" "I never use almond extract." Another guard rolled his eyes. "Anyone can say that." She met Matteo's gaze. "No. Because the groom's bride has a severe nut allergy. Every invoice from my bakery clearly states all recipes are nut-free. If this cake had really come from my kitchen, the bride would have collapsed before the politician." Silence. Matteo's head tilted almost imperceptibly. She continued. "The piping technique is copied from mine, but the pressure marks are different. Whoever switched the cake studied my work. They wanted this blamed on me." For the first time that evening, Matteo looked impressed. He walked around the desk until only a few feet separated them. Most people stepped backward under his presence. Eliana didn't. She was frightened beyond words. But she refused to surrender her dignity. "You think someone infiltrated your bakery?" he asked. "I know they did. And if you're lying? Then kill me." The guard stiffened. Eliana swallowed hard. "But if I'm right, the person who poisoned that cake wasn't trying to murder one politician." Her eyes drifted toward the raven crest. "They were trying to reach you." The room grew dangerously still. A slow smile, small enough to vanish in a blink, touched Matteo's face. It wasn't amusement. It was recognition. Someone had just challenged his empire. He looked at his security chief without taking his eyes off Eliana. Cancel her execution. The guards exchanged stunned glances. She stays. Before anyone could move, every light in the mansion suddenly went black. A single gunshot echoed through the darkness. The mansion's emergency lights flickered to life in a deep crimson glow. Within seconds, Mateo's security team had formed a protective circle around him. The gunshot had shattered a second-floor window, but the assassin was already gone. Rain lashed against the glass while guards swept every corridor. Eliana stood frozen. Not because she feared for herself. Because the bullet hadn't been aimed at Mateo. It had struck the poisoned cake, destroying the raven crest. Someone wanted the evidence erased. Mateo noticed where her eyes were fixed. You saw it. They weren't trying to kill you, she whispered. They were trying to destroy the only clue. For a long moment he simply studied her. Most people reacted to violence with panic. Eliana reacted with observation. That alone made her dangerous to his enemies. You'll remain here, he said, until we know who's behind this. Days turned into a cautious routine. Every morning, Eliana rose before sunrise, unable to sleep inside a mansion larger than the neighborhood where she had grown up. Instead of wandering aimlessly, she found the estate's abandoned professional kitchen. The staff had relied on catered meals for years, leaving the ovens cold. By the end of the first morning, the aroma of fresh bread drifted through the mansion. Curious guards followed the scent. Housekeepers smiled for the first time in months. Even Mateo paused outside the kitchen doorway. He watched silently as Eliana kneaded dough with practiced confidence, humming softly while measuring ingredients without scales. Her movements were calm, precise, almost graceful. She treated every loaf as though someone she loved would eat it. You've never missed a measurement, he observed. She smiled faintly without looking up. My mother said recipes teach honesty. If you cheat one ingredient, the whole cake remembers. The words lingered with him long after he left. Others remained unconvinced. Lucia Romano, the elegant director of household operations, viewed Eliana with thinly veiled contempt. A baker doesn't belong in this house, she remarked during breakfast. She's here because our boss feels generous. Several guards chuckled. Eliana simply continued arranging pastries for the staff. She never defended herself. She let her work speak. Within a week, the mansion had changed. Security officers who usually skipped breakfast gathered together each morning. Tense meetings became calmer over warm coffee and handmade pastries. Even veteran bodyguards admitted morale had improved. Mateo noticed every detail. Power, he knew, wasn't sustained by fear alone. It was sustained by loyalty. And somehow, the curvy baker inspired it naturally. One afternoon he found her repairing an elaborate sugar sculpture in the estate's ballroom. You could hire assistants, he said. I like earning my place. You already have one. She looked at him, surprised. I haven't proved anything yet. His voice softened almost imperceptibly. I disagree. For the first time since arriving, Eliana felt truly seen, not despite her appearance but because of her character. She lowered her eyes, warmth rising to her cheeks. Thank you. Mateo left before saying anything more, though the faint smile that touched his lips did not go unnoticed by the guards. Rumors spread quickly through the estate. The boss trusted the baker. Not everyone welcomed that change. Late one evening, unable to sleep, Eliana returned to the kitchen to prepare dough for the next morning. As she searched a storage pantry for vanilla beans, she noticed something strange. One crate had been moved. Behind it was a narrow service corridor she hadn't seen before. A faint beam of light leaked beneath a heavy steel door. Curiosity overcame caution. She stepped closer. Voices. Shipment crosses tomorrow. Another replied. Mateo must believe the rival syndicate is responsible. A third voice lowered to a whisper. Once the internal security codes are transferred, the empire falls from the inside. Eliana's heartbeat thundered. Someone inside the mansion was feeding information to a rival mafia family. A traitor. She instinctively leaned back. Her elbow brushed against a metal mixing bowl. It crashed onto the floor. Silence. The voices stopped. Footsteps approached the steel door. Fast. Eliana ran. Behind her, the door burst open. She darted through the corridor and into the dark kitchen, but before she could reach the hallway, a gloved hand grabbed her wrist. She twisted instinctively, knocking a tray of copper pans to the floor. The attacker released her just long enough for her to break free. Breathing hard, she sprinted through the mansion until she collided with Mateo in the main corridor. He caught her before she fell. What happened? She struggled to catch her breath. There's someone inside your organization. Before she could say another word, every security monitor throughout the mansion flashed to black. A single crimson message appeared across every screen. We're already inside. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the gates, dozens of headlights slowly began rolling toward the De Luca estate. The convoy of black SUVs stormed through the iron gates like a tidal wave. Before the guards could seal the perimeter, the first explosion ripped through the outer checkpoint, sending flames climbing into the rain-soaked sky. Bullets shattered windows across the De Luca estate as masked gunmen poured from armored vehicles, their rifles flashing in the darkness. Positions. Matteo roared. Within seconds his soldiers returned fire, transforming the grand mansion into a battlefield. Eliana instinctively dropped behind a marble pillar as glass rained across the entrance hall. She had never heard gunfire before. It was louder than thunder. Closer than nightmares. One terrified housekeeper froze in the middle of the corridor. A sniper's red laser settled on her chest. Without thinking, Eliana sprinted forward, tackling the woman behind a stone column just as the bullet tore through the wall where they had been standing. "Stay down," she shouted. The firefight intensified. Outside, Matteo advanced through the courtyard with frightening precision, issuing calm commands while eliminating attackers one by one. He looked less like a businessman and more like the king of a battlefield. Then everything changed. A delivery van bearing the logo of a luxury pastry supplier rolled toward the mansion gates. Several guards lowered their weapons. "Their catering staff," one called. Eliana's eyes widened. No. She recognized the logo immediately. The company had gone bankrupt nearly a year ago. "That's fake." Her voice echoed across the courtyard. Matteo reacted instantly. "Fall back." A heartbeat later, the van exploded. The blast hurled guards across the pavement and showered the entrance with burning debris. Had they approached it, dozens would have died. Matteo turned toward Eliana. She hadn't guessed. She had known. Because she lived in the baking industry. Because details others ignored were impossible for her to miss. His respect for her transformed in that instant. She wasn't merely innocent. She was indispensable. The attackers changed tactics. Smoke grenades filled the courtyard as four masked men broke through the eastern entrance. "The baker," one shouted. "Take her alive." Kidnapping. That had been their true objective all along. Two gunmen rushed toward Eliana. Before they reached her, Matteo intercepted them with terrifying speed. His first strike disarmed one attacker. His second sent another crashing through a glass display case. He pulled Eliana behind him. "You stay with me." Another assassin fired from the balcony. Matteo twisted, shielding Eliana with his own body as the bullet grazed his shoulder. She gasped. "You're bleeding." "It's nothing." "It isn't." Ignoring the chaos around them, she grabbed a clean kitchen towel from a nearby serving cart and pressed it firmly against the wound. "Hold still. You've chosen an interesting time to become stubborn." She met his eyes. "You protected me. So now I'm protecting you." For a brief moment, the war disappeared. There were only two people standing inches apart, surrounded by shattered crystal and drifting smoke. Matteo had spent years believing trust was a weakness. Yet this woman, whose life had been turned upside down because of his world, was more concerned about his injury than her own safety. The remaining attackers retreated as De Luca reinforcements flooded the estate. Silence slowly replaced gunfire. Hours later, dawn painted the city in shades of gold. Matteo invited Eliana onto the mansion's rooftop terrace overlooking the skyline. A private breakfast had been prepared beneath a glass pavilion, where fresh flowers swayed in the morning breeze. Waiting beside her chair was a velvet box. She frowned. "I can't accept expensive gifts. It's not payment." She opened it carefully. Inside rested a delicate platinum necklace. Its pendant wasn't a diamond. It was a tiny handcrafted whisk, framed by a circle of white sapphires. A tribute to her profession. To her. Her eyes filled with tears. "You remembered." "I remember everything that matters." No one had ever celebrated the work she loved. Most people admired her cakes. Matteo admired the woman who created them. His voice became unusually gentle. "Eliana?" She looked up. "You never need to make yourself smaller to deserve a place beside anyone." The words settled deep inside her heart, healing wounds no one else had ever noticed. For the first time in years she believed them. A soft breeze carried the scent of fresh bread from the kitchens below. Their eyes remained locked. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Matteo lifted one hand and brushed a loose curl away from her face. Neither of them moved. Neither of them looked away. Just as the distance between them disappeared, Matteo's phone vibrated. His expression hardened instantly. He glanced at the encrypted message, then toward the horizon. A single sentence glowed across the screen. "We have your brother. Come alone. Or she dies next." The DeLuca Grand Foundation Gala was the most exclusive event in the country. Politicians, CEOs, diplomats, and leaders of the world's most influential families gathered beneath crystal chandeliers in the DeLuca Palace ballroom. A string orchestra filled the air with elegant music while cameras flashed endlessly outside. For years, Matteo had attended every gala alone. Tonight, whispers swept through the room before he even entered. The towering doors opened. Matteo stepped inside in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo. Beside him walked Eliana. She wore a custom emerald green gown that celebrated her curves instead of hiding them. The dress flowed gracefully, its elegant silhouette reflecting confidence rather than conformity. A platinum necklace with a tiny whisk pendant rested against her heart, catching the light with every step. The ballroom fell silent. Many recognized her immediately. The baker. The woman accused of poisoning a powerful politician. Now walking beside the most feared man in the underworld. Lucia Romano's confident smile vanished. "So, she wasn't temporary," one executive murmured. "No," another replied quietly. "She's standing at his side." Matteo offered Eliana his arm. Not as protection. As an equal. She accepted without hesitation. Throughout the evening, guests attempted to test her. A luxury hotel owner questioned artisan baking techniques, hoping to embarrass her. Instead, Eliana discussed food safety, supply chains, ingredient authentication, and quality control systems with such depth that even Michelin-starred chefs joined the conversation in admiration. A charity board member challenged her understanding of logistics. She calmly explained how neighborhood bakeries minimized waste while feeding thousands during emergencies, proposing an efficient distribution model that impressed every philanthropist at the table. Even seasoned business leaders began asking for her opinion. Matteo watched quietly. He had built an empire by recognizing talent. Tonight, everyone else finally saw what he already knew. When the orchestra paused, he stepped onto the stage. "I've spent my life surrounded by powerful people," he said, his calm voice carrying across the ballroom. "But true strength isn't measured by fear." His eyes found Eliana. "It's measured by integrity." Every guest turned toward her. "The woman beside me possesses more courage than many people with armies behind them." A wave of applause filled the ballroom. Lucia lowered her head. Every person who had mocked Eliana's appearance or underestimated her competence was left speechless. For the first time in her life, Eliana wasn't merely accepted. She was respected. As the gala concluded, Matteo invited only his closest advisors to a private family dinner inside the estate. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Maps, encrypted files, and surveillance photographs covered the dining table. "The rival syndicate couldn't have planned every attack alone," Matteo said. "The traitor is still among us." Silence settled over the room. Then Eliana noticed something unusual. A silver serving tray had been placed beside Matteo's chair. She frowned. "This tray wasn't polished by your household staff." Everyone looked at her. "How could you possibly know that?" She lifted it carefully. "The cleaning compound smells different. Industrial citrus solvent. Commercial kitchens use it. Private estates don't." Matteo's security chief immediately inspected the tray. Hidden beneath its base, a magnetic listening device. The dining room had been bugged. Someone inside the mansion had prepared the table. Someone they trusted. Before anyone could react, the lights exploded into darkness. Automatic gunfire erupted from the gardens. Windows burst inward. Masked mercenaries flooded the estate from every direction. "It's an assault," a guard shouted. The mansion descended into chaos. Smoke swallowed the corridors. Explosions shook the walls. Guests scrambled for cover while Matteo's soldiers fought room by room. "Protect Eliana," Matteo ordered. Too late. A figure emerged from the smoke behind her. Lucia. Her elegant expression had disappeared, replaced by cold satisfaction. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "But they offered me a kingdom." Before Eliana could move, Lucia pressed a concealed injector against her neck. The sedative burned through her bloodstream. Her knees buckled. "No!" Matteo roared. He fought desperately toward her, eliminating attacker after attacker, but another explosion collapsed part of the grand staircase between them. The room trembled. Dust filled the air. Eliana's vision blurred. Through fading consciousness, she saw Matteo forcing his way through the flames, calling her name with a desperation she had never heard before. She reached toward him. Their fingertips came within inches. Then gloved hands dragged her backward into the smoke. The last thing she saw was Matteo breaking through the collapsing debris, his usually unshakable composure shattered as the armored escape vehicle disappeared into the storm with Eliana inside. Moments later, a blood-stained envelope landed at his feet. Inside was a single photograph of Eliana, bound but alive. On the back, written in crimson ink, were 7 chilling words. Choose your empire, or choose the woman you love. Matteo stood before the assembled captains of the De Luca Empire with the blood-stained photograph clenched in his hand. We rescue Eliana first, he said. Power means nothing without her. Some protested, warning that abandoning strategic territory would strengthen rival families. Matteo silenced them with one cold glance. Anyone unwilling to follow may leave alive. Anyone who betrays us dies. Every soldier remained. Across the harbor, Eliana awakened inside an abandoned confectionery factory converted into a fortress. Her wrists were bound, but her sharp eyes studied every workstation. Industrial mixers, sugar drums, gas ovens, flour silos, cooling pipes and automatic sprinklers surrounded her. Lucia smiled cruelly. Your talent ends here. Eliana answered quietly, no. It begins here. When Lucia left, Eliana rubbed her bindings against a jagged baking rack until the ropes snapped. She mixed flour with powdered sugar and cooking oil, creating an airborne cloud primed to ignite beneath open flames. She quietly opened gas valves around the production floor before hiding behind steel equipment. Matteo launched the assault at dawn. Armored vehicles smashed through reinforced gates while helicopters circled overhead. Gunfire thundered across the waterfront. Rival syndicate soldiers answered with rockets and machine guns, yet De Luca forces advanced relentlessly. Eliana triggered the sprinklers, spreading her flour mixture everywhere. As enemy guards rushed inside, she tossed a burning tray into the suspended cloud. A roaring flash blasted through the hall, stunning attackers without collapsing the structure. Confused captives escaped while Matteo's team stormed forward. Lucia seized Eliana and pressed a pistol against her temple. Matteo lowered his weapon. Take the empire, he said. Leave her. Lucia laughed until the rival boss emerged, applauding. He admitted orchestrating the poisoned cake, buying traitors, and planning to inherit both criminal empires after eliminating Matteo. Eliana quietly noticed sugar syrup dripping beneath heavy machinery toward exposed electrical cables. She hurled a metal bowl, redirecting the sticky stream onto the wires. Sparks erupted, shutting automated security doors. The rival boss became trapped with his own gunmen. Matteo defeated him after a brutal fight. Lucia tried escaping, but the collapsing conveyor pinned her until police arrived. Outside, sunrise painted the harbor gold. Matteo embraced Eliana. You saved everyone, he whispered. She answered, we saved each other. Months later they married in the restored bakery where her mother had taught her courage. Matteo transformed part of his fortune into community kitchens and scholarship programs while leaving ruthless violence behind. He named Eliana his equal partner in every legal business and every family decision. At their celebration he said, you are beautiful, brilliant, enough, and forever beside me. Guests cheered as she accepted a ring engraved with a tiny whisk and raven. Together they built an empire founded on loyalty instead of fear, proving love could rewrite destiny. Reporters soon uncovered evidence linking corrupt executives, hired assassins, and hidden bank accounts to the conspiracy. Honest investigators dismantled the remaining network, while grateful witnesses finally spoke without fear. The families once trapped beneath extortion celebrated their freedom. Matteo personally compensated every innocent victim harmed during the conflict, proving strength required accountability. Eliana reopened her neighborhood bakery, employing widows, young apprentices and former workers displaced by violence. Every loaf, pastry and celebration cake carried a simple message written inside each box. Hope always rises. Children laughed where gunfire had echoed. Elderly neighbors embraced the couple as symbols of renewal instead of intimidation. During a quiet evening, Matteo admitted he had believed love demanded weakness because everyone he trusted had eventually betrayed him. Eliana took his hand and reminded him that devotion was strongest when freely chosen. He smiled without fear for the first time in years, finally feeling completely home beside her. Their shared future promised peace, purpose, resilient family forever together. If this story touched your heart, Please comment with your favorite moment, like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more unforgettable Mafia romances.